I'm going to say something, and like people might jump all over me, but this is where human beings are not good. This is where machines are very, very good at giving you unemotional data about what actions you need to take. Right. So, and then you can go start looking. So, first, I would say is to instrument to be able to gather this information. There's a lot of stuff that is available in terms of software that you can put in place that can monitor your utilization, monitor your resources, whatever be the case, right? There's that. Second is like see if there are patterns that can do that. And those are the ones that you can start looking at. You can do small things. I'm going to give you an example. We have a 12th minute spike in our traffic. We've seen this for years and years at one of my previous companies. And what we did was we reduced the spike, but that spike was still there every 12th minute. We had a spike. And so we can't auto provision. When the spike hits, you cannot auto provision. We'll be out of resources if we start auto provisioning and leaving everything to auto provision. So we would ramp up the provisioning, say 5 minutes prior, and then take it down 10 minutes later, something like that. So instead of having it entirety of the time, we reduced it to 1/4 of the time. So having it at capacity. So those are the kinds of things that you could potentially think of as being able to do from an automated fashion. There are a lot of tooling, a lot of things that are. The hyperscalers give you fantastic reports about your costs. I mean, if you're an operations person, you have access to that data to the minute detail. You will know exactly where your spend is. I think going after the big ones, right? And looking at it saying, not to necessarily go cut it, is it justified? Is this really needed for that particular use case? Or is there a better way? Sometimes it might lead to you changing the way your application works. Ultimately, the customer might not know any difference, but you would have handled it differently from how the technology stack is handling it. So there are lots of ways to skin this cat. And I think each company can determine what is appropriate in their particular scenario. But I think looking at the data, automating around this things that are very predictable, and then going after the big hot spots, right? And those could be like costs, could be things. And there's a bunch of out there. And I'm not very familiar with the landscape, but there's a lot of tools just looking at the cost optimization aspect of it, which is like looking at your resource or utilization cost optimization. Can you put more workloads within the same cluster? Those are the kinds of things like you could virtualize on the cluster. You could have more services being served up by the same cluster, right? So obviously there's like a management overhead over there, but like is that a trade-off you want to do? Are they complementary in terms of the resource needs? Are they complementary in terms of where the spikes happen, if there are spikes, right? So things like that. So there's a lot you can do to actually go that route as well.